So what do you say we spend a little time in the garden today? All right, all right, all right. It's hard to believe it is seed starting season already. And today I'm back over here at Hoss HQ in the greenhouse, and we're gonna get some seeds started. So our little 16 by 10 greenhouse here is pretty empty right now, but it's about to be full pretty soon. It's time for us to start getting seeds in trays, start growing some transplants for early spring planting, and then just general spring planting, warm season crops, all that good stuff. If you watched our latest episode of the Row by Row Garden Show, I kind of went through my tentative seed starting schedule for January and February and kind of give you an idea of when I plan on starting certain stuff. So you can go check that out and see that there. And the first thing on that list is to get another round of cool season crops going. So we can plant things like cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, kohlrabi, greens, anything like that. We can plant one more round of those here, you know, February, early March or so. They'll grow a lot faster than the ones we've grown over winter. We can plant one more round of those, get some of those in. They'll come in quick and they'll be ready, so we'll have some food to eat before a lot of the warm season stuff starts producing. So down here in zone 8B, we usually get our our last frost somewhere around early March. So we don't want to put warm season crops in the ground after that happens. But some of these cool season crops that we're going to start today, we can go ahead and get them in the ground, and they'll be close to getting ready middle to the end of spring. So when we're seeding stuff early in the year in the greenhouse like we are now, we pretty much grow everything in these 162 trays we sell here, these heavy duty 162 cell trays. And most everything that we grow in them, we will plant directly out of these trays. We won't step them up. The only exception there being peppers, which we may plant a few peppers here today if we have time as well. We'll step up peppers to a bigger pot because those plants are a little fragile, but most everything else, you know, all the cabbage, all the brassicas, even tomatoes, eggplants, all that we'll plant directly from these trays right here. Even though there's only about a 1-inch root ball there, these things grow some awesome transplants, and they take off really well when you put them in the ground. A lot of times the smaller the transplant, the less the transplant shock, and they'll actually take off and outperform a lot of times those really big transplants like you might see at the big box stores. So let's start off by getting some seed starting mix in these trays here. Now if you're new to growing transplants, growing your own vegetable transplants, seed starting mix is one of the most important parts of the program here. Don't try to grow your own transplants in what they call potting mix. It's too thick. It's got too many chunks of stuff in it, and it's just not going to form a good solid root ball. When you go to pull that plant out of the cell, whatever container or tray you're using, you're not going to have a good root ball there. So you want to use a seed starting mix that's nice and fine. Most of them have a decent amount of vermiculite and perlite in them. That's also going to help you grow a great transplant. We used Pro Mix for years and carried that on the site. Haven't been able to get as much of that lately, so we've been using and carrying a brand called SunGrow. It works great as well. Just make sure you get a seed starting mix and not a potting mix. So some folks like to wet this stuff and then put it in the trays, but I like working with it when it's dry, and then I'll wet it once we put it in the trays. And when I'm doing multiple trays at a time like this, I find it's easier just to kind of stack them all close to one another, and then we can dump it all out here. I doubt this is going to be enough. Anyway, we can just start to kind of spread it amongst all these trays right here. We kind of want to break up any of those chunks we might have in here. Just kind of spread it out till we get all those cells filled there. Alright, we got all our trays filled, so I'm just going to put this excess back in my bucket here. We'll save that for later. Use it on another tray. Well, I said you should be using seed starting mix. The one thing about seed starting mix is it takes a lot of water to get it wet, and that's why some people wet it before they put it in here. I mentioned I like working with it dry and just wetting it once it's in the trays, but once it's in here you got to soak it down really good. If you don't, what'll happen is, you can see this tray right here, just the top part of this seed starting mix will get wet and the bottom part will be dry, and then your plants will dry out once they form roots and you just won't get good transplants. So you got to make sure you soak these good early. So I'll wet them down good, just kind of give it a minute to all soak in, wet them down again, and you'll just keep doing this 3 or 4 times until they get really good and soaked, and the water is kind of dripping out of the bottom of them. Let me get my water turned on. We don't want to wet them to the extent where we're blowing the soil or washing it out everywhere. We just want to be kind of careful with it. Take our time. And just get all this seed starting mix moistened up here. And even if you're using some bottom trays to kind of moisture wick or wick water from the bottom up to the top of the seed starting tray there, I would still highly recommend wetting this stuff down good ahead of time. I'm not sure that it's going to wick up that much to really soak that individual cell there like you need it. So always good practice, just soak this stuff down really good ahead of time before you plant any seeds here. And you can tell when it's sufficiently wet because you'll start seeing the water drip from the bottom of all the cells here. These trays drain really well, and once you see water coming out the bottom really good, then you know you've got it kind of sufficiently wetting. Alright, I'm going to scoot some of these trays to the side here because I actually like working with them when they're sideways like this as opposed to the long way. So we're going to start off with this guy right here. There's a little chunk right there that didn't get as wet. Let me wet that down one more time. Alright, that should be good. So as I mentioned, we're going to start off with some more cool season crops, some cabbage and stuff, and got my plant labels right here. We're going to do my seed packets. We're going to do some Savoy King cabbage. I like those Savoy types cabbage. They're really tender, really good. We're going to do some of this Chinese cabbage, which is kind of almost looks like a head of romaine, but tastes like cabbage. This is a new variety we just added called Superstar cabbage. I haven't tried that, so I want to try that and compare that to some of my favorites like the Cheers and the Bobcat. Going to try some of this Caribbean Queen cabbage here, which is a tropical style cabbage, makes a big flattened head. And then as far as the cauliflower, broccoli, and kohlrabi go, we're going to do that in another tray. We're going to do some Candied Charm cauliflower, which is a white variety. We're going to do a variety of broccoli called Marathon, and then this new variety of kohlrabi we just added called Conan kohlrabi. Now brassica seeds are pretty tiny, so we don't need to make a huge dibble in our soil here for our seed. Just light indention in there, just so that seed kind of stays in the middle of that cell there when we put it in there. We don't need to plant these deep at all. General rule of thumb is to plant seeds twice as deep as the diameter of the seed. Like I said, all these brassica seeds, cabbage, kohlrabi, broccoli, all these are really tiny, so we don't have to plant them very deep at all. And it's always a good idea to have your stuff labeled, especially if you're putting multiple varieties in a single tray. So we've got our labels made here. Got Caribbean Queen cabbage, and I'm not going to count these out. I'm just going to try to divide them as equally as I can here. China Star cabbage, Superstar cabbage there, and Savoy King cabbage there. So we can put 4 varieties of cabbage we're going to put in this one tray here. So there's 9 times 5. So anywhere from 30 to 40 plants per variety we should be getting here. Enough to do, I'm looking at doing just 1 row of each of these varieties here. That'll be plenty of cabbage. I mainly just want to grow some real big ones to make some more sauerkraut. But I like these Savoy cabbages and Chinese cabbages. Eating those fresh, they're really good. So we got our dibbles made there. And now we just need to start dropping our seeds in the hole. Now these seeds all have pretty good germ rates on them. Like this Caribbean Queen, 95% germ rate. So it's not like I need to intentionally double seed these holes. If I didn't know what that germ rate was, or if it wasn't that great, I might put 2 seeds per hole. But these are pretty good seeds here, so I'm just going to put 1 seed per hole, or try to do that. If I get 2 in there, no big deal. I can come back and thin them out later. Alright, so we got all our cool season or cool weather seeds in the trays here. Our broccoli, our cauliflower, kohlrabi, and there's 4 different types of cabbages there. Now we just need to lightly cover these seeds. Just like I told you earlier, we don't want to plant these things super deep. We do need to cover them. We don't need to cover them much, because if we cover them too much, they're going to be planted too deep, and that's probably going to affect our eventual germination rate. Now we used to come in here and just lightly dust or cover these with more of the seed starting mix, and that works just fine. But if you can get your hands on some of this white stuff right here, this perlite, this stuff works great for covering the top of the seeds. Has several different benefits, but the best one I've found, the best benefit, main reason I like it is because you don't get some of that algal buildup on the surface of these little cells right here, and just makes things drain a little bit better. So this stuff's a little messy. If you're growing plants inside, you would probably want to do this outside and then bring them in. It's a little messier than just doing it with the more of the seed starting mix, but if you can get your hands on some perlite, I'd highly recommend doing it this way. So we're just going to lightly kind of dust or cover those seeds there. We don't want to cover it all to the point where we can't see the divisions between the cells, but we want to cover each of the seeds there. So there's kind of a gentle medium there as far as how much to put. I still want to be able to see the divisions between my cells, just in case for those cells where I got more than 1 seed in them, I need to come back and thin these things out. I can see where each cell is. So just a light covering of that right there. And we'll do our other tray here as well. It's good to have a little scoop or something to put down this perlite with. It's so fine, it's hard to put down with your hands. It kind of all just runs through your hands. But if you can get a cup or any kind of little container and kind of lightly shake it out like this, you get a little better even application that way. There we go. And we'll wet these down with that really fine dram nozzle we used earlier. That's going to keep us from kind of blowing this stuff all over the place. Keep every seed in its respective cell. Keep all this perlite in place. And you don't want to use something with a lot of pressure. You don't want to be watering right down close to it. You want to be real gentle with these trays, especially until those plants get up a couple inches or so. So in addition to getting those cool season crops started, another thing I wanted to do today is go ahead and get my peppers started, or at least the majority of them. Of all the things that we grow from transplants that we grow in this greenhouse, peppers probably take the longest to germinate and get up and going and making a viable transplant that's ready to go in the ground. Onions can take a little while, some herbs can take a little while, but peppers are definitely the one that try your patience the most as far as seed starting goes. And so I want to go ahead and get those going, because I am going to step those up to some 4-inch pots and let them get, you know, that tall or so before I put them in the ground. You could plant them directly out of these trays. They're just really tender, and the chances of somebody stepping on one, dog walking on one, anything could happen and break it and kind of damage it. And we don't have you know, that many plants we're going to be putting in the ground eventually, so we want to take good care of all of them. That's why we'll step up the peppers. Let me give you an idea of what we're going to be planting variety wise, and this is a tough decision. We got so many good pepper varieties. I was in the seed room earlier trying to pick out which ones I was going to grow, and there's so many here, so many that I could choose from. Even something just like bell peppers, we've got 4 or 5 great bell pepper varieties. But I wanted to try some of these newer varieties we added, and some of these I have tried before. And not going to plant a ton of peppers, probably just 2 or 3 rows, but I really want to plant a wide variety this year. Last year I just pretty much grew bell peppers and banana peppers and hot banana peppers and jalapenos, just kind of 4 different things. This year I'm really going to grow a wide variety. So for the bell pepper, I chose the King Arthur there. I've heard a lot of good things about that from customers. So we're going King Arthur on the bell pepper. Planting these Santa Fe Grand peppers, which is a little small yellow pepper, about the size of a jalapeno, about the same heat as a jalapeno in my opinion, but really, really good flavor on these. I have grown these before. I'm gonna grow some poblano peppers. We got a variety called Tiburon. I'm gonna grow this yellow bell pepper called Early Sensation. Supposed to be really good flavor there. I'm gonna grow this kind of Marconi type pepper called Big Jim. Then we've got what some people call like a lunchbox type pepper, this gypsy pepper here, which makes kind of the smaller sweet peppers that have kind of a smorgasbord of colors on the plant with yellow, red, orange, all that good stuff. I'm going to grow this heatless habanero here called Roulette. It's supposed to be really good flavor on that. No heat, but all the good citrusy flavors that you expect from a habanero pepper. And then this little series here is actually 3 varieties individually that we added this year. They're all kind of like mini bells or maybe little mini pimento peppers. But there's 3 of them. There's a red, there's an orange, and there's a yellow. So there's right on red, yes to yellow, and orange you sweet. And so I'm gonna grow these kind of right beside each other and have me a nice little medley of these sweet, kind of small pimento looking peppers. What else we got here? We got some banana peppers. I went with the Lola variety. Tabasco peppers. I always like making pepper sauce for my greens, so I'm going to grow one of those. Pepperoncini peppers. I'm going to pickle me some of these. I've grown these in the past, and you talking about loading up, making a ton of peppers per plant. These do it. And I think that is it. So we got about, I don't know, 10 or 11 varieties here. Probably split those up among 2 trays, and let's get them in. So we got our peppers in and covered with perlite here. Now I know that looks like a lot of pepper plants, and it is. And I won't plant near that many. But what I kind of do here, and I do this every year, when I pick out which varieties I'm going to grow, I give each variety 3 of these shorter rows going this way in the seed tray. So we got 9 cells times 3 gives us 27 cells per variety there approximately. And each of our pepper seed packets contains 30 seeds. So 30 seeds is just about the right amount for those 3 little rows right there. And this is just a quality control measure, a way for me to kind of double check our seed germination. I won't plant nearly close to 27 King Arthur bell pepper plants. So what I'll do is once they all come up, or the majority of them come up, I'll come in here and I'll pick the best 3 or 4 or maybe 5 plants per variety, and that's the ones I'll plant. I'm not going to step up every single sprout out of these trays here. Just going to step up the ones that look good, kind of take my picks amongst all of them here. I'll step up those good ones, and then those will be the ones that make it to the garden. The rest of these, like I said, are just a quality control measure, just to test, just to make sure everything's germinating right for you guys out there that are purchasing these seeds. All right, we got everything seeded in trays that we want to seed today. Now let's talk about heat. So even down here in South Georgia, even in a greenhouse, for germinating peppers, got to have a heat mat. Even if you're growing them inside your house and you like to keep the house pretty warm, probably still going to need a heat mat. Now we could probably get away without a heat mat on some of that cool season stuff, being that we're inside this greenhouse here, and if we closed all the doors and windows down, they would probably still germinate without heat. They would just be a lot slower. We're still getting some nights in the 30s down here in January, so we could probably get the cool weather stuff up, albeit slow. So we're going to put that on the heat mat to kind of speed up our germination. But with peppers, you definitely need to have them on some kind of heat mat for optimal germination. So there's several options out there on the market as far as heat mats go, and the ones we've been carrying for years are these blue commercial grade heat mats. We have them, I think, two different sizes. They're both 5 foot long. One of them is 12 inches wide. This one here is 21 inches wide. And normally if I just had a couple trays, I would lay these trays long ways. But I found having a little bit hanging over the end there doesn't really affect a whole lot. So we can just put more trays per heat mat. We've had this one for a while. You can see it's got some stains and stuff on it. But these things are built to last forever, and this one's still kicking good as any. So lots of options out there. I really like these commercial grade ones, built to last. But whatever you do, make sure you get a heat mat that has a thermostat, because what will happen is if you don't have a thermostat, those heat mats often don't get hot enough, and we leave ours turned all the way up to 100 all the time. We never really change the temperature on it. We leave it turned up to 100 all the time. And your heat mat should have a little probe on it here that you can stick down into the soil. Well, maybe right there's a better spot. So you stick that probe down in the soil, and that's what helps regulate the temperature and everything. So make sure you get one with a thermostat. It's going to perform a lot better than one without a thermostat. I've seen cases where people didn't have a thermostat and their peppers never came up because their heat mat wasn't getting hot enough. So get one with a thermostat so it can get hot enough to get those peppers germinated. All right, so I got those watered in and feeling pretty accomplished. I feel like this is the first year in several years where I've felt like I'm ahead of the game a little bit on my seed starting schedule, and hopefully I can kind of maintain this momentum and stay good and on schedule with everything and have everything ready to go in the ground as soon as we know we're not going to have any more frost. As far as the warm season stuff goes, the cool season stuff, if I had transplants ready right now, I could get those in the ground. But this warm season stuff, I want to be ready as soon as I can in March to go ahead and get this stuff in the ground and hopefully have some nice healthy transplants to put in the ground by then. As far as my schedule goes, the next thing up will be tomatoes and eggplant. I'm going to start my heirloom type tomatoes before I do my hybrids, because I'm going to step up the heirlooms, the hybrids. I'm going to plant right out of these 162 trays. So that will be next on the list probably within the next week or so. So if you've already started your seed starting out there, let me know how it's going. If you have any other questions about seed starting or growing transplants, put those in the comments below, and myself or some of our great viewers will be glad to help. I'll put some links below to all of our seed starting supplies and all the seeds we planted today, so you can go to our website and check those out. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and ring that bell so you get notified every time we come out with a new video. And if you did enjoy this video, check out these other two seed starting videos right here. I think you'll really enjoy those as well. We'll see you next time.